Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a really pivotal topic, the future of work in the age of artificial intelligence and automation.
Yeah, it's definitely top of mind for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And you're here because, well, you want to understand these big shifts, right? Without getting totally swamped by all the reports and jargon.
Exactly. Information overload is real.
So that's our goal today. We're aiming to give you a, clear and insightful look at what the future of employment might actually look like.
That's right. And to help us figure this out, we've pulled together some pretty compelling resources. We'll be looking at academic research, which gives us that kind of broader view.
The big picture stuff.
Yeah, the theoretical framework, you could say. And then also industry analysis that gives us a more like concrete picture of potential changes, on the ground.
Okay, so specifically, we've been digging into a piece from Science Direct. It's called Employment 5.0, The Work of the Future and the Future of Work. Sounds intriguing.
It is. We've also got McKinsey's big report, Jobs Lost, Jobs Gained,
Uh,
which is quite detailed.
Right, lots of data in that one. And then there's Built-in's piece focusing specifically on what jobs will AI replace.
Hmm. So, yeah, different angles, which would hopefully give us a really well-rounded perspective.
Our mission then is to pull out the most important takeaways from all these sources, give you a clear view on how AI and automation are, well, expected to reshape work.
Looking at jobs that might go away, but also new ones that could pop up.
And the skills we'll all need, plus how individuals and, companies can maybe start thinking about preparing.
So let's jump in.
Okay, let's unpack this. First off, this whole idea of digital transformation. The Science Direct article talks about employment 5.0. What's the core idea there?
Well, they're looking at how technology interacts with, like, our social structures. It's not just about the tech itself. They ask, are these new technologies potentially making existing gaps worse or creating new ones?
Like inequality.
Yeah, potentially. And also how these changes might favor certain skills over others in the workforce, which is something we'll definitely circle back to.
Right. The skills piece is huge.
Thinking about it this way helps us see it's not just cool new gadgets, it's potentially a fundamental rethink of how we organize work and, who actually benefits.
And this rethink, it can lead to some pretty major changes in the job market, can't it? They mention things like technological unemployment and job polarization.
Exactly. Technological unemployment is, well, basically when machines take over jobs humans used to do.
Mm,
Pretty straightforward, conceptually at least.
yeah.
Job polarization is a bit different. It's this idea that the middle skill, middle wage jobs might shrink.
Squeezed out.
Kind of, while you see growth at the high skill, high wage end, and maybe also at the low skill, low wage end.
Okay, so the middle gets hollowed out.
That's the concern. And if you connect this to what McKinsey talks about, the rapid advances in automation and AI, you see these technologies as the drivers behind it all. They're directly changing how tasks get done, how whole industries work.
Right. So let's get specific then. What kind of scale are we talking about? Potential job replacement. McKinsey gives a pretty wide range, doesn't it?
They do. Their estimate for 2030 is, well, it could be anywhere from almost 0%.
Zero, really.
Well, almost zero was their low end, maybe reflecting uncertainty or very slow adoption in some places, up to a pretty significant 30% of work hours globally being automated.
30%. Wow.
But they do suggest a midpoint, maybe around 15% as perhaps more likely.
Okay, 15% still feels like a lot.
It is. But, and this is really crucial, it's not going to be the same everywhere. Different countries, different economies, different wage levels, they'll experience this very differently. So 15% is a global average, sort of, but the local impact will vary a lot.
Got it. So what kinds of tasks or, activities are most likely to be automated? McKinsey gives some helpful examples.
Yeah, they point to physical tasks in really predictable environments. Think operating machinery on an assembly line, or maybe preparing food in a fast food place.
Okay, routine physical work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also roles heavy on collecting and processing data.
So office work too.
Definitely. Things like mortgage origination, certain kinds of paralegal work, standard accounting tasks, a lot of back office functions, really. Areas where tech can often do it faster, maybe more accurately.
And Built-in gets even more specific, right? They actually list job titles experts think might be like largely automated pretty soon, say 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, they do. It's quite a list. They suggest customer service reps, with chatbots and self-checkout getting better.
We see that already.
We do also car and truck drivers. That's the whole autonomous vehicle discussion.
Still seems a way off, but okay.
Progressing fast, though. Even computer programmers, potentially, with generative AI writing code.
That's a big one.
It is. Also on their list, research analysts, paralegals again, factory and warehouse workers, think AI-powered robots, machine vision,
Makes sense.
financial traders with AI algorithms, travel advisors replaced by AI platforms, even some types of content writers, especially for like formulaic stuff or first drafts.
And graphic designers?
Yep, with AI art generators becoming more capable, it touches a lot of areas.
It really does. But you mentioned McKinsey makes a crucial point here. Just because tasks within a job get automated doesn't mean the whole job disappears overnight.
That's such an important nuance. You might automate, say, 30% of someone's tasks, but the other 70% still needs a human.
Right.
So McKinsey emphasizes that people in those roles might just shift their focus. Their responsibilities change, maybe towards tasks that need more, uniquely human skills. Judgment, empathy, complex problem solving.
So the job evolves rather than vanishes entirely.
In many cases, potentially yes. The day-to-day work might look very different, but it doesn't automatically mean mass layoffs in that specific occupation.
Okay, so that's the disruption side. But what about the other side? New jobs being created. McKinsey sees several big areas for new labor demand. Where are the biggest opportunities?
They point to a few major drivers. First, just rising incomes and people spending more, especially in emerging economies. That alone could create, they estimate, something like 250 to 280 million jobs in consumer goods.
Wow.
And maybe another 50 to 85 million in health and education globally.
Huge numbers.
Yeah. And second, aging populations. More older people means more demand for healthcare workers, personal care aides, things like that. Another potential 50 to 85 million jobs there.
Okay, demographics playing a big role. What else?
Well, the tech itself, developing and deploying all this AI and automation, that creates jobs too. McKinsey thinks maybe 20 to 50 million, often high-skilled, high-wage jobs in the tech sector.
Building the future, basically.
Pretty much. And then there's infrastructure and construction. They see big potential here, maybe up to 80 million jobs, just following current trends.
Okay.
But possibly 200 million more if there's a big global push for upgrades. Think architects, engineers, electricians, carpenters, all those skilled trades.
Makes sense. And what about, the green transition, sustainability?
Absolutely. Investments in renewable energy efficiency, adapting to climate change, that's another engine. Up to 10 million jobs on current trends. Potentially another 10 million on top of that if investment steps up.
Okay. Any other major areas?
One more interesting one they mentioned is the marketization of previously unpaid domestic work.
What does that mean exactly?
Think childcare, house cleaning, gardening, stuff people used to do themselves or was informal. Now with apps and services, it's becoming more formalized, part of the paid economy. They think this could create another 50 to 90 million jobs.
Interesting. So looking at the net effect, automation subtracting jobs, these trends adding jobs, where does McKinsey see the most net growth? Which job categories are the likely winners?
Right, weighing it all up. Their analysis points to strong growth for healthcare providers, definitely.
We mentioned the aging population.
Exactly. Also, professionals like engineers, scientists, accountants, analysts.
Right.
IT pros and other tech specialists, of course.
High-skill roles.
Generally, yes. Also, managers and executives' roles needing complex decision-making, people skills. They see growth in educators, especially in emerging economies, creatives, artists, entertainers, builders, obviously tied to that infrastructure point. And interestingly, manual and service jobs in unpredictable environments.
Unpredictable? Like what?
Think home health aides going into different homes, or gardeners dealing with unique landscapes, jobs requiring adaptability, human interaction in settings that are hard for current robots to handle.
Got it. So less routine, more adaptation.
Precisely. And Built-in adds a point here too, specifically about AI, right? That AI itself creates new jobs.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, you need people to develop AI, obviously. Machine learning engineers, you need people to train it. And importantly, people to think about the ethics, to manage it responsibly. AI ethics specialists, for example, that's a growing field.
Right, the human oversight layer.
Exactly. Humans remain crucial in the loop.
So all of this really points to a pretty significant shift in the skills that are going to be valuable. McKinsey noted that the education needed for these growing jobs is often higher than for the jobs being displaced.
That's a really key finding. We're likely looking at increased demand for jobs needing more advanced education, more specialized training.
So a potential skills gap.
Could be, yeah. And McKinsey also talks about the types of skills changing. Less need for, like, routine physical work or basic data processing.
The stuff automation is good at.
Right. And more need for skills like managing people, applying deep expertise, social interaction.
The human stuff.
Exactly. Plus advanced cognitive skills, logical reasoning, creativity, problem solving, and social and emotional intelligence, which becomes even more important when routine tasks are automated.
Okay. What about wages, though? If automation reduces demand for certain jobs, does that push wages down?
McKinsey suggests it could. Yeah. Basic supply and demand. If there's less need for workers in an occupation being automated, you might see wages stagnate or even fall in those specific areas. Interestingly, though, they think that in advanced economies, most of the new job growth will be in higher wage occupations.
Oh, so that could actually increase income inequality.
That's a potential consequence they raise, yes. Widening the gap between high earners and low earners. They do contrast that a bit with emerging economies, where they think middle wage jobs might see the biggest growth spurt.
Okay, different dynamics in different places. And Built In had some practical advice on skills people should focus on developing now, right?
They did. Pretty grounded advice, actually. They stress foundational stuff like basic math, strong communication, speaking, and writing.
Still crucial.
Absolutely. And beyond that, they highlighted creativity, people management skills, emotional intelligence.
EQ.
Right, and those big ones.
Right.
Critical thinking and problem solving. Skills that are harder to automate and valuable across many roles.
So putting it all together, we're looking at potentially huge workforce transitions. McKinsey compared it to like the move away from agriculture historically. That's a massive shift.
It really is. Their numbers are quite striking. They estimate anywhere from 75 million up to maybe 375 million people globally might need to actually switch occupations and learn totally new skills.
Wow. 375 million. How do we even manage that kind of change? What does McKinsey say needs to happen?
They emphasized a few key things. First, you need robust economic growth overall to create the demand for new jobs. That's fundamental.
Okay.
Then, massive investment in job retraining and skills development. Lifelong learning has to become, the norm.
For everyone.
Pretty much. They also talk about making labor markets more dynamic, more flexible, so people can actually move between jobs and industries more easily. And crucially, providing income support, transition assistance for people whose jobs are displaced.
So a multi-pronged approach. It sounds like trying to just stop the technology isn't the answer, though. McKinsey was clear on that.
Yeah, they explicitly say trying to slow down tech adoption would likely be a mistake. It would probably just hurt economic growth, hinder productivity gains.
The very things that could help pay for the transitions.
Exactly. Their point is the focus shouldn't be on stopping it, but on managing the transition effectively. Proactive adaptation.
And Built In had that example of Amazon's Upskilling 2025 program.
Right. A concrete example of a big company realizing they need to invest in retraining their own workforce for the future. It shows that awareness is growing.
So it seems like individuals have a big role too, right? McKinsey mentioned people needing to actively get new skills, maybe rethink what a career even looks like.
Absolutely. It really underscores the need for personal responsibility, too. A mindset of continuous learning, being adaptable, being open to new roles, new ways of working. That's going to be key for individuals to, not just survive, but actually thrive.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. Our deep dive today, it really shows AI and automation are set to fundamentally reshape work, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that will mean some jobs getting displaced, particularly those heavy on routine tasks, physical or data-based. Even some white-collar roles we thought were safe might be affected.
And this is a big intent, but there's also huge potential for new jobs to be created, driven by all those things we talk about. Rising incomes, aging populations, the tech itself, infrastructure, the green economy, new service models.
Right. It's not just a story of loss, it's also a story of creation and transformation.
And this future job market, it's going to demand a different skill set, more emphasis on, uniquely human abilities. Critical thinking, creativity, EQ, complex communication.
Which means proactive adaptation from individuals, from companies, from governments is going to be absolutely essential to navigate this well.
So while some jobs, they look vulnerable to automation.
Roles needing empathy, complex problem solving in messy, unpredictable situations, real nuanced human interaction. Those are likely to stick around, maybe even grow in importance.
Okay. So here's a final thought then for you listening. Thinking about these trends, how might your own skills, your own career path be affected? What proactive steps could you maybe take starting now to adapt and, well, hopefully flourish in this changing world of work?
Yeah, maybe think about that balance in your own field between the power of the tech
Yeah,
and the value of the human touch.
definitely something to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.